panel is going to be about inspiration and why these guys do what it is that they do so well. First up, James Nichols. Let's give it up for Dave Rude. Next up, Chris Trainer. Jason Hook of Five Finger Death Punch. Brendon Small. And one of the most iconic men in rock and roll music. Give it up for Bob Rock. My first question is, before you guys were even guitar players, what was the song, the riff, the performance that made you want to pick up the guitar and come down the rabbit hole oh so deeply?
It was easy for me. It was, if I leave here tomorrow, Freebird, right? It was Freebird. That was the solo. I heard that, and I was like, what is that? I want to do that. That was the solo for me.
My favorite period was the 80s. I'm sorry, I love the 80s. So I was, dieting on Van Halen, and I loved Kiss. So let's see if I can whip this out. It's still a little early for me. That's all I got.
Jimmy Page, with the dragon pants and the double neck guitars, and I always wanted the Les Paul because of him. Everything that he ever did is great and just contributes to rock and roll. So anything he did was way cooler than anything anybody else ever did.
One of the songs that got me really into hard rock and guitar as being just a fucking guitar player is Mr. Brownstone. That is just about one of the coolest riffs I think ever been written by anybody.
I don't know, for some reason I heard that song by Prince. I would never want to take the place of your man. Do you guys know that song? It's
One that I was in a band up in Canada, and we had a great producer. His name was Mick Ronson, a boy guitar player. And he's probably the biggest influence on my production. And is an amazing guitar player. Nice.
What was the song that you could not wait to master?
I don't know it.
They still dig you, don't worry.
Something like that. Anyway.
Still Zap, probably Ramble On, which actually I just did a recording with Bob a couple months ago, and I said I started playing Ramble On. He told me I was playing it wrong, and as usual he was right, and I had to go back and listen to it. So I think it's something like a... Kids today kind of pick up on that, like what's special about that generation of music, what's special about Sabbath, what's special about Zeppelin is that those dudes were playing the whole way through. And so that inspired me as a kid, and I think it still inspires kids today.
The first thing I thought of was, I remember being like 12, and I had the vinyl of Blizzard of Oz, and like slowing it down after school one day to learn the Crazy Train riff, because I had to do it before my mom got home because she thought Ozzy was like gonna turn me into a criminal or something. So I had to hide the records, and I brought it out and just figured out that riff, like slowed it down and go, maybe it should be done right. It's just like another one of those riffs that it's, has a better one been written yet? I don't know, but it's pretty cool.
I was gonna say the exact same thing because that's such an important riff to guitar players. Crazy Train is one of the coolest things for them. So that, so I mean that, I couldn't believe that was a guitar. I thought that was just magical. I thought it was the coolest thing. So I'm watching it already, but that was one of the coolest things. And then also as a guy who likes heavy metal. wasted years also is another thing. So those things, you got your right hand moving, and there was all kinds of craziness involved in playing Sweet Child of Mine. You had to string skip, you had to do all this kind of articulation, and then like worry about your pick attack, and then not letting the strings ring out and all that stuff. So those three, I knew they got a lot of rotation in my bedroom. My bedroom was a very lonely place back in those days. I would not know the love of a woman for years. Until I got my playing together, I knew deep down inside that I could get my fingers, my fat, sluggish fingers working, and then I could parlay this into romance.
You learned Stairway, and then it all changed.
And I learned Stairway. That's my answer.
When I started playing guitar, it seemed everybody was better than me. So, kind of like on the stage here. So I decided that who did I like? Who was the person that kind of was the guy that I could find something that would inspire me? And it was Pete Townsend. And one of the, well, I guess from Pinball Wizards, I can see for miles my generation. My generation actually. How simple is that? So it's a guitar. It's about the song, and I always thought that, you know, his leads were always served the song. So I concentrated on rhythm and songwriting, and that's where I ended up being as a musician. And the interesting thing is, like, talking about Gibson. I mean, he played Gibsons. He played a lot of different guitars, but Live It Needs is an SG standard. And it always goes back to Gibson for me, for that kind of sound. And his sound was not distorted. It was kind of clean, but it was always the way he hit it, like kind of like Malcolm, the way he played, right? Was hitting your guitar, and that's what inspired me. Just to be a great rhythm player, a great songwriter, and to make great records. So that's my version. So what inspired me?
All right, guys. Well, that's going to conclude our panel. Yeah, man, give it up for these guys up here. Some incredible insight into how they became who they were. I wanted to thank all you guys on the panel for taking the time and talking to all of us, and once again make me feel like the luckiest guy in the room. Everybody, give it up for the panel. Give it up for the panel.